rather than having everybody spend 10 minutes watching me go round and round or having to stop the video, I made a couple a little while ago. So this is the next bit that is a little bit different. Now, see, this is where the loose tail end is, and since I spin this clockwise, I need to look for the next one counterclockwise. Need to get in underneath and give it a bit of a tug. Just about enough that you can get a finger comfortably in it, and maybe a little bit more. And from there, you just work your way around and tighten up these bottom loops. And after the first one, you can actually pull them quite tight, because it won't matter anymore. That very first loop, though, the one that I said was should be about finger width, you don't want to pull that one too tight, otherwise you won't be able to get all the way around. The last couple of loops will essentially be trapped, and you won't be able to get them into place. So around, and this one's actually, I can feel the tension on it because it's kind of wrapped into that first loop that you tightened up. So tighten that, grab this, and pull on this. And there we go. The base is all done. And I'll show you that again in a second because I've got another one that I'll show. So, at this point, and I've kind of wandered off of my script and I'm improvising at this point. But hey, you need a little bit of fluff. I use very little, pretty much just enough to make sure that the catnip doesn't sift through the holes. And I got ahead of myself. Okay, you need to use the latch hook. Slide in through here. You're aiming for as close to the middle as you can get. If you're not dead on the middle, don't worry about it. Just try for as close as you can get. Slide through. This is one of those places where the latch hook makes a really, really big difference, because you can just do this, slide it around, and boom! Pull it back through and inside. Now, back to the fluff and the catnip. A little bit of fluff, a little hollow there, and catnip. I'm usually pretty generous with the catnip. Down inside there. And you don't necessarily want the body stretched tight. Some slack in it's just fine. Cats seem to be perfectly fine with that. So, find the one that you ended on that has the working string. Keep this sort of there out of the way, and go to the next loop. Pull it off of that peg, up and over the next peg, and then basically pretend you're doing the same thing you've done for the whole body. Pull it up and over. Okay. Now, it is going to loosen up a fair bit as you do this. Don't worry about it, we're going to tighten it up at the end. So, you just keep working your way around, up and over. Give that a little tug just to tighten it up. This one off, up and over. Pull that up and over. And the one left, just goes up and over there, and that goes over there. So grab the working part, and just pull that nice and snug. So what you've got is a single loop with the working string coming out of it, and you've got the tail end from the base sticking out of the middle in there. So just give those two a quick half hitch like that, and just pull this off the peg. Now this is another place where the latch hook comes in really handy, because you've got 4 strands of yarn there that you need to try to get through that loop. So this way, just slide the latch hook through there, catch all 4 strands, and pull them through. From this point on, there is nothing that you need to do, or need other than the scissors. Okay? But I'm going to turn this one into a mouse, so there's one other little step, which is take the 2 sides of the half hitch and pull. You see how the body's kind of collapsing in on itself? What that does is it means that when I do the mouse, or the tail for the mouse, it's going to be off-center, and it's going to look much more mouse-like, the way this one does. So, slide that back through there, grab hold of those again. Now this is the same as making a foundation row for crochet. That's all it is. I'm sure there's lots of other ways to do this, but I hold it in my left hand, take the working part, pull it through the loop, and then pull it tight. And since there's 4 strands going on here, you might need to do some individual tightening if they're uneven. Now since I'm making a mouse out of this one, what I'm going to do is use all 4 strands for about the length of the mouse's body. Maybe 1 or 2 more. And then I'm going to take one of these 2, the 2 that came up from inside, from the base, because they're already ended basically, and I'm going to pull one of those all the way out and just toss it off to the side. So then I'm going to do about the same length again with 3 strands. Hopefully you can follow this. I'm doing it fairly hastily just so that I don't spend too awfully long working on the tail. A little bit more. Come on, there we go. And yeah, that's about even. So actually I was running out of that one anyway. So we pull out the other tail end. Do a little bit more with 2 strands. I'm sure you can see where this is going. Because what you're going to get is a mouse with a fairly longish, tapered tail. I'm sort of keeping half an eye on my little tabby that she doesn't decide to come and help. She's watching proceedings with some interest. So, got about the same length again there. We're done up to there with 4 strands, up to there with 3, up to there with 2. So, Pick one or the other. Give it a snip. And then do a little bit with just one. I usually don't do a whole awful lot with just one because this is the most likely bit for a cat's sharp little teeth to be able to sever, although nobody actually has reported that happening. But just a little bit so that it tapers off. And then do a couple really tightly. Really yank on them when you're doing it. Not hard enough to break the yarn, obviously, but nice and tight. And give it about the width of your finger or so, just to make sure that while it's being bunny kicked and roughhoused with, it's not going to fray. And then all you have to do is trim off these extra little bits, and you've got a mouse.